Hi and welcome to episode 2 of my trip in Iceland. Now if you've not seen the first episode, go and check that video out after watching this one as I show you some of the amazing places I visited, such as the drive around the Golden Circle where there's just so much to see, visiting the Blue Lagoon and places that I dined at and would recommend you go and visit in and around Reykjavik, and also a place called Hella. In this episode, I'll be visiting the spectacular Glacier Lagoon, Diamond Beach, and the two magnificent glaciers, plus some of the places I stopped along the way. Also, I will be heading around the west of Iceland to the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, where you will see some spectacular views, waterfalls, and I'll also be heading down to the centre of the earth where you can walk along a lava tube. Plus we'll be exploring some of the sites close to Reykjavik, such as the geothermal area, the bridge between continents, a lava rock pool, and then finally we'll be exploring the capital, Reykjavik, to see what's on offer. So join me in the second part of my journey in Iceland. Now, to start my journey to the Glacier Lagoon from Reykjavik, I headed along the south coast, and this will take you about a 5 to 6 hours drive, and that won't include any stop-offs along the way. Now, I set off about 3 a.m. in the morning as I wanted to make the most of my day and arrive at the Glacier Lagoon nice and early. Now, it's a very scenic drive and there are many wonderful things to see along the way. I decided to drive directly to the Glacier Lagoon and make most of my stop-offs on the return journey. Now, if you're not keen on driving, you could of course organise an excursion on a coach. Now, as a tip, if you're at the stage of booking your accommodation, you could consider spending 1 or 2 nights in Vik, which is the halfway point from Reykjavik to the Glacier Lagoon, and this will greatly reduce the amount of driving you need to do in one day. The only stop off I made on my journey to the lagoon was just to grab some photos of the two magnificent glaciers. Now, when I finally arrived at the Glacier Lagoon, the views were breathtaking. Now, the lagoon is formed naturally from melted glacier water and is perpetually growing while big blocks of ice crumble from the ever-shrinking glacier. Now, sadly, the retreating glacier visibly demonstrates the effects of global warming. Now, if you're a bit of a film buff, you may be interested to know that the James Bond films Die Another Day and View to a Kill, and also Tomb Raider, were filmed at the Glacier Lagoon. Now, boat tours do operate in the summertime on the lagoon, and, from what I've read, they are the same boats that were used in the film Tomb Raider. Now, as the icebergs break away from the glacier, they fall into the lagoon and they slowly melt and drift down to the sea, where they're polished by the North Atlantic waves before being washed ashore onto the Black Beach. Now, the Black Beach is a stretch of sand and is always covered with translucent, compact ice sculptures that glisten in the sun, much like diamonds, which is where the beach gets its name, Diamond Beach. Overall, it's a truly wonderful site to visit, and it's all totally free. Now, for the long journey back from the Glacier Lagoon to Reykjavik, I headed to a place called Reykjavik. Now, it's around about 2.5 hours drive from the lagoon and is very close to the town Vik. Now, Reykjavik is a world famous black beach, and it's got these enormous basalt stacks. Now, Reykjavik is widely considered to be the most beautiful example of Iceland's black sand beaches. Now, so mesmerising are the basalt stacks, they featured in season 7 of the Game of Thrones. So for a short stop off, take some pictures, I would definitely recommend going and visiting this black beach. Now, moving away from Reykjavik, the next place I visited was the magnificent Gullfoss waterfall. Now Gullfoss is one of the biggest waterfalls in Iceland with a drop of some 62 metres and the width is 25 metres. And you can walk right up to it, get up close, but do be prepared to be drenched, so take your raincoat. It is just absolutely overwhelming when you stand next to this waterfall. Now if you fancy walking to the top of the waterfall, there are some steps and it will take you right to the top and you'll have absolutely magnificent views from the top of the waterfall. Overall, it's a truly wonderful waterfall and well worth visiting. Now moving away from the Gullfoss waterfall, next I headed to another stunning waterfall called Seljalandsfoss. Now it was just 25 minutes drive, so just a short trip, and it is one of the best well-known waterfalls in Iceland. It's got a drop of about 65 metres and a path leads you behind the waterfall, but again, do wear a raincoat because you will get soaking wet from the spray. Take some photos there, it's absolutely beautiful, well worth visiting. Now, having had a long day's driving, I was feeling quite hungry, and this is when I visited the Strand Restaurant, which was in episode 1, and it's one of the restaurants I highly recommended. Now, it's about 25 minutes drive from Seljalandsfoss waterfall, and it seemed the perfect place to wind down and enjoy some good food on the way back to Reykjavik. Now when I was at the restaurant and had the food, I did manage to grab an interview with the owner, George, and this is how he described his beautiful restaurant. Can you just tell me a little bit about your restaurant and what you do here?
Okay, we opened the restaurant 2 years ago. Our idea is like get the local products from the farmers. We go and pick up the fish every day and the meat, and after that with the best local product from our neighborhood, from Hedla. We are in Hedla in the south of Iceland. We make like a fusion with all the techniques we have been learning all around the world. And you know, we just fusioned everything, you know. And
I know you're a great cook as well, and that, you know, to be honest, your food really shows that. It's just absolutely some of the best food I've had. Really is amazing.
Thank you very much. And then we have a spectacular view, 360 degrees.
It's beautiful. Have a look at this view. Look around. It's just absolutely amazing there, isn't it?
Thank you very much for your visit. You are always welcome. Thank you.
Now, having had some lovely food, I headed back to the capital, Reykjavik, and looking forward to the next day, which was the drive around the West Peninsula, which is where we're going next. Now, setting off from Reykjavik towards Snæfellsnes Peninsula to the west, it's a full day's driving. Now, the first stop along the way is Vatnajkull Beach, which is one of the most reliable places to spot seals. Unlike many beaches in Iceland, Tunga has golden sand rather than black sand. Now, once you arrive, you can park your car. Now, there's a small path that leads you up to a sort of viewing area where many people gather to take videos and footage of the seals in their natural environment. Now, I did manage to catch a glimpse of a seal perched on a rock close to the seashore, but overall it's a great first stop around the peninsula and perfect for stretching your legs, take a gentle stroll and take in some of the wonderful views. And again, it's free to enter. Now moving on, the next stop is going to be Vatnajkull cave tour, which is around about 36 minutes drive from Tunga Beach. Now, according to the guide, you will be taken to the centre of the earth. Now, in reality, you're going to venture down a cave and walk along a lava tube. Now, Vatnajkull cave is around about 8,000 years old, and it's considered to be one of the most incredible lava caves in Iceland. Now, first of all, you're provided with a hard hat, a torch, and given a safety speech, which was quite entertaining. The tour itself lasts for about 45 minutes. Now, what I would suggest is bring some warm clothing, a raincoat, and some kind of hiking boots, because the surface of the cave is quite uneven. Now, there is a bit of a cost. It's £25 for adults, £10 for children, and if you've got children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old, then it's free. Now, as you start the tour, you will descend down a spiral staircase into the subterranean world. Now the tour meanders through the path of the lava flow around about 200 metres into a large cave that lies around 35 metres beneath the surface of the earth, where you'll be greeted by some rainbow coloured volcanic rocks and incredible lava formations. Now at the bottom of the cave, the tour pauses so that everybody can turn their lights off, turn the phones off, and experience a moment of true darkness. Then you'll be taken to some secret chambers that are hidden within the cave before you head back to the world of light and an incredible underground experience. Now overall, I really did enjoy this venture, and it's one I would recommend you go and visit. Now heading away from the cave tour, next destination is going to be the Kirkfells Waterfall and the Lonely Mountain, which are next to each other. Now the drive's around about 45 minutes. It's very scenic because you don't know what's going to be around the next bend. You see things like volcanic lava fields, and it's just spectacular views everywhere. Now as you approach the waterfall, you see the true beauty of the Lonely Mountain and the waterfall itself. Now once you park up the car, you can stroll around, take many photos, and it's just one of those places you're going to want to take lots of pictures. And if you can, try and get a picture of the waterfall and the Lonely Mountain together. Overall, it's one of the iconic places to go in Iceland. It's absolutely amazing, and I definitely recommend you pay it a visit. Now after I'd taken many pictures and video footage, I headed back to Reykjavik, had something to eat, and next of all we're going to be travelling to some of the places around Reykjavik. Now just before I show you the drive around the Reykjavik peninsula, this was a restaurant I popped into when I arrived back in Reykjavik. It's called Fish Company, and Tristan had just served up the first of their 4-course seasonal menu called Around Iceland, which I felt was very appropriate for my trip.
So you have the first destination around Iceland.
Ah, yes.
And that's going to be in the south coast of Iceland, where you have a pan-fried carp medallion,
Yeah.
glazed with Icelandic honey and pan-fried, with cod roe mayonnaise smoked, green kale and cabbage. With this sauce I'm going to pour on top,
Okay. Yeah.
with celery, mussel,
Wow.
and apple.
Lovely. Absolutely beautiful. That looks absolutely spot on beautiful. Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Now, next of all, we're going to be travelling around parts of the Reykjavik Peninsula. Now, the drive itself is around about 2 hours and 45 minutes, but that doesn't allow for any stop-offs. Now, this trip could be half a day, or if you make a little bit more of it and explore other destinations, or you spend a bit of time in the Blue Lagoon, it could become a full day's trip. Now, my first stop is going to be the Bridge Between Continents. Now, the Bridge Between Continents is a bridge that connects the North American and the Eurasian tectonic plates. The Bridge Between Continents exists because the Mid-Atlantic Rift runs through Iceland. Now, the rift separates the North American and the Eurasian tectonic plates. Now, the very best place to see these tectonic plates is in the Thingvellir National Park, which is around the Golden Circle. Now, I did visit that in episode 1 of my trip around Iceland, so go and check that one out. Now, as it's on the way round the Reykjavik Peninsula, it's a great place to stop off, take some photos, selfies, especially if you stand in the rift, and it's all totally free. Now, moving on from the Bridge Between Continents, the next stop is going to be the Gullfoss geothermal area, which is only a 7-minute drive away. Now, it's a highly active geothermal area, and it's full of mud pools and steam vents. Now, the steamy area has a real eerie atmosphere to it, and it's got these incredible sulphur vapour. Now, a unique characteristic of this hot springs is the groundwater here is 100% seawater, unlike other geothermal areas on the island. Now, the colourful minerals in the ground provide vibrant hues, colours, so, you know, beautiful for taking photos and selfies. Now, what I would say is make sure you stick to the main trails, as potentially it is a very dangerous area. It's a wonderful place to visit and somewhere I would recommend, and it's free to enter. Now the next stop's going to be the Brimkattel Coastal Rock Pool, which is made out of lava rock. Now the basin-like shape of the lava rock pool was formed by coastal erosions. Waves constantly pound the southern coastline with a great force, as there's no significant land masses south of Iceland. Now if you're patient, you will see the odd rogue wave that crashes against the jagged shore to produce a massive spray as it hits the jagged shore. Now I did see one of those, but unfortunately missed the video opportunity, so can't share you with that, but it was very impressive. And overall, it's a great place to stop, take some photos, it's very picturesque, so I recommend you go there, and it's free to enter. Now moving away from the lava rock pool, now I headed back to Reykjavik, but obviously you could at this point visit the Blue Lagoon because it's not too far away. Now when you go there, you can either walk around and take some, you know, nice photos and selfies. It's a really good place just to wander around, doesn't cost you anything on the outside. Obviously if you've booked a time slot, then you can go in, spend a good few hours relaxing in the warm geothermal heated pool. Now I did cover the Blue Lagoon in episode 1, so go and check that out. Now obviously, you know, if you want to make a little bit more exploring the peninsula, there's plenty more to see. So have a look online and you can obviously explore as much as you want and make a whole day of it. Now I arrived back at Reykjavik, popped out for something to eat, and after having some amazing food, I grabbed a quick interview with Chloe, who was kindly taking care of us, and asked her to explain what the restaurant was about.
Yeah, so basically we're at Vatnajkull here in Grandi, Reykjavik. It's an up-and-coming new neighborhood here. We basically tried to take Icelandic tradition and turn it into something innovative and new, using old recipes from a book called Vatnajkull that we named a restaurant after. That is kind of like an encyclopedia of Icelandic cuisine.
Oh, amazing. So it's got some really good, authentic recipes that you've obviously just slightly modernised and put a little bit of a twist on it, so
definitely
wonderful. And this used to be a bacalao factory back in the time.
Yeah, so this house was a bacalao factory back in the time where they actually could sun dry the bacalao, which is not allowed anymore, of course. But we have in the room where they used to make the bacalao, we now have our dining room.
So after that lovely meal, now the next day I decided I was going to explore Reykjavik. Now Reykjavik is the capital city of Iceland and the world's northernmost capital. Nearly 2/3 of the country's population live in and around Reykjavik. Reykjavik town centre is relatively small, which makes it easy to explore on foot. I would say in about 2 or 3 hours you can kind of walk all the way around. One of the main attractions is the Kirkfells church, which can be seen from most points around Reykjavik, and it's the tallest church in Iceland at just over 74 metres. It's a beautiful church inside out, and it also has an elevator that takes visitors to the top of the building where you can enjoy a 360-degree view of the city. Now as you walk around Reykjavik, it's decorated with some really cool alternative street art, so do keep your eyes peeled. Now you'll also see the Sun Voyager, which is a metal structure resembling a Viking longboat, which sits on the seashore in Reykjavik, and it's one of the most visited sites. And it's perfect for a photo location. Now also, I did visit the Flea market, which is only open on the weekends, and it offers a variety of handmade artifacts, jewellery, knitwear, and other sort of interesting antiques and second-hand items, including vinyl records. Plus there's a food section for fish, cakes and many treats. And when I was there, I tasted shark for the first time. Just got a little bit of shark here, so try a bit of that. Not bad, a little bit chewy, quite a strong flavour.
not my favourite though.
Now you've also got the city hall and the pond, and it's got a really nice park that surrounds them, and it's just a great place to sit and relax and, you know, just take it all in and chill out. Now, for all the culture vultures, Reykjavik's got the Harpa Concert Hall, which is a must-see experience. You can either just wander in and take, you know, some pictures of the architecture with its steel and glass work, or you can book a concert. So check out the programme and see what they've got. Now, when you're looking on the outside, at night, the Harpa Concert Hall comes to light, it's illuminated, and it looks wonderful. Now, there are many museums in and around Reykjavik, from a punk museum, there's even a penis museum, plus many, many more. Now, I visited the Maritime Museum, which explores Iceland's dramatic relationship with the sea and shows the wonders of Iceland. Now, my favourite museum was the Pallins Museum, as it has so much to see, and within the museum you've got an ice cave that gives you a great experience, and also it's got an aurora planetarium show which guarantees you will see the northern lights. It also has a cliff with some puffins, plus you'll be able to learn a lot more about Iceland, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the geothermal areas, and, you know, pretty much everything about Iceland. This was a really great museum to visit, and one I would definitely recommend you go to. Also, as you explore the capital, you will see many unusual things. You know, you can have a good wander around. You never know what's going to be around the next corner, but wander around, explore, is just beautiful. Now, moving on to the food in Reykjavik. Now, generally Iceland is fairly expensive for food because just about everything is imported. Now, obviously, if you're working for a budget in a self-catering sort of accommodation, the best place to go is some of the supermarkets to buy your food. Now, the one I sort of went to and had a good selection was the Bonus supermarket. You know, it had sort of foods like your fish, your sausages, eggs, all the sort of things you're going to need to cook at home. So that's the one I'd recommend you go to, the Bonus supermarket. Now, I mainly ate out in Reykjavik during my stay. I mean, I went to sort of visit various restaurants, but there's a big selection there, so you can pretty much find whatever you want. The only thing that's not there is a McDonald's and a Starbucks, so don't bother looking for those ones. Now, you will, however, find a number of places also selling hot dogs, which unofficially is one of Iceland's national foods. Now, hot dogs are always very popular, reasonably priced, and also when you're driving around Iceland, they're actually served up in little cafes next to the petrol garages. So, you know, if you're looking for a cheap eat on the move, pop into the cafes and you can get your hot dogs. The places I dined at, I did try and grab a quick interview with, you know, some of the staff. Some were really busy, but I did manage to get a few interviews. So here's some of those interviews that I've got. Stefan, thanks for coming out. It looks absolutely fabulous, your place, and there's plenty of people, and the ones that were just walking out said how good the food was, so I'm glad you've taken the time to come and see me, and you know, I'm dying to get in there and try your food.
Thank you.
Stefan, can you just tell me about your dishes? You've only got 8 dishes, am I right?
Yes, it's very simple, 8 dishes, all for the same low price of 1,650. We got the lobster soup, we got the meat soup, we got the fish stew, we got our world-renowned now fish and chips, and all on the street level prices here in downtown Reykjavik.
Right, because I saw the reviews and everyone was saying how good the food was. And,
I am very honoured with the reviews.
I think 1650, I think that kind of translates roughly to about £10 in UK money.
Yeah, just above that.
And that is actually very reasonable prices for, you know, obviously the food in Iceland, and you're obviously giving very good quality food for that.
Yeah, we didn't want to jeopardize and we didn't want to do any discount on the quality of the food. We just decided to create the manufacturing process so we can have the prices as low as possible, and we were able to do it.
Well, I think you're doing a great idea. So let's go in and try some of that food and enjoy.
Let's step in, let's go.
Hi Frederick, I've come to have some of your food just to show you. This is Fish & Co, Frederick, and he's going to make some lovely food for me, but I thought I'd just, you know, have a chat to him so he can let you know what he does here really.
Yep, so what we serve is cod with spinach and tomatoes usually, or cod and fries.
So it's like cod and really nice salad mixture, and you know, or maybe they can have chips, whatever. But the thing is, I know I've come here because you've got some really high ratings. So all your customers absolutely love the food. So I had to come and check yours out. So it's like fish and chips or fish and salad.
Yeah, but the fish is pan fried, not deep fried. Like
oh, it's pan fried. Okay, that's great. So it's a little bit healthier as well, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And your location, where would you say you are? I know you're very close to the church.
Close to the church, like 100 meters from Harpa, which is the church.
Oh, that's the main church. It looks like a geyser, isn't it? You know, that's the one. Right, so not very far at all. So look round for Frederick because it's absolutely tasty food.
Yeah, you get to go.
Now overall, I just want to say I thoroughly enjoyed my trip in Iceland and met some local people. They're very friendly, very warm, and they speak perfect English. Now the places I visited, a lot of them were breathtaking, and sometimes when you see video footage or photos, it doesn't do it real justice. You've got to go yourself. Now I had some wonderful food, and you know, obviously go and check out some of the restaurants I visited or the ones you want to go to, but the food there is absolutely delicious. Now as a final thing, if you're visiting Iceland or you've already visited Iceland, leave any comments or tips below because I'm sure others will appreciate those. Also, if you haven't seen episode 1, please go and check that one out because it's got different footage to the second episode we're watching now. Now, most of all, I want to thank all you for coming on my journey in Iceland. And, you know, if you have any recommendations on places I should visit next, please leave suggestions below. See you all very soon with some delicious home-cooked culinary delights. Thanks for watching The Original Naked Chef.